December 7, 1941. Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. The ocean glows with fire. Black plumes of smoke twist into the tropical sky as Japanese bombers thunder away from the harbor. They've turned into a graveyard. Battleships lie broken, oil burning on the water's surface. American sailors shout orders, drag the wounded from the flames, and stare in disbelief at the wreckage of their fleet. The United States has just been pulled into World War II. But amid the chaos and rage, far from the front lines, one civilian, an engineer named Henry Kaiser, stands in his California office staring at a newspaper headline that reads, "America enters the war." He isn't a soldier. He's not even a trained shipbuilder. He's a contractor, a man who's spent decades pouring concrete and building dams. Yet that morning, as he reads about the attack, Kaiser feels something shift. America will need ships. Thousands of them, cargo ships to carry tanks, fuel, ammunition, everything the Allies will need to fight across oceans. But there's a problem. In 1941, building a single cargo ship, the kind the Navy calls a Liberty ship, takes nearly a year. By the time one is launched, dozens more are sunk by German boats prowling the Atlantic. The Allies are losing ships faster than they can build them. Kaiser walks to his window, looking out over the Oakland shipyard, and mutters a question that will change history. What if we could build ships like cars? He's thinking of Detroit, of the assembly lines that roll out automobiles by the hundreds each day. It's an impossible thought. Ships aren't cars. They're massive, intricate, and built by skilled craftsmen, not by machines and teams working in shifts. But to Henry Kaiser, impossible isn't a word that exists. Within weeks, he's on the phone with Washington, pushing an idea that makes naval officers raise their eyebrows and shipyard veterans laugh outright. Mass production of ships. They tell him it can't be done. That it's reckless, that steel doesn't bend to schedules the way metal panels on a Ford do. But Kaiser doesn't argue. He simply asks for a chance, a contract to prove it can be done, and when the U.S. Maritime Commission reluctantly agrees, Henry Kaiser begins an experiment that will turn him into one of the most important and unlikely heroes of World War II. By the spring of 1942, his shipyards are rising from the mud like something out of science fiction. Massive, roaring, 24-hour assembly plants running in shifts around the clock. Sparks fly from welding torches as teams of women, farmers, and mechanics, most of whom have never even seen the ocean before, are trained to become shipbuilders. He divides construction into sections, pre-fabricating hull parts offsite, then assembling them like puzzle pieces at lightning speed. Each worker becomes a specialist in one step, each ship a product of synchronized precision. The first Liberty ship to roll off Kaiser's revolutionary line is the SS Patrick Henry, named after the man who once cried, "Give me liberty or give me death." As the giant vessel slides into the water, reporters scoff, calling it the ugly duckling of the fleet. But what no one realizes yet is that this so-called duckling is about to change the course of the war, and the very way humanity builds. May 1942, Richmond, California. The air smells of salt, hot steel, and sweat. Sparks cascade like fireflies across the hull of a half-finished ship as welding torches scream through the night. Floodlights turn the Kaiser shipyards into a glowing city that never sleeps. It's 2 a.m., yet thousands of men and women work side by side hammering, riveting, and fitting massive steel plates together. Henry Kaiser stands on a high platform overlooking the yard. His white hard hat gleams under the lights, his coat collar turned up against the sea breeze. Around him cranes swing, engines rumble, and foremen shout orders over the clamor. This isn't a factory, it's an orchestra, and Kaiser is its conductor. Everywhere he looks, the impossible is becoming real. Sections of hulls prefabricated in nearby workshops arrive on flatbeds and slide into position. Instead of one crew working from keel to deck for a year, dozens of teams now build the ship simultaneously, each one tackling a different part. His engineers call it modular construction, but Kaiser calls it common sense. Each worker is trained for one specific task: riveting, welding, electrical wiring, or pipe fitting. Many of them are women, part of a new workforce filling the gap left by men who have gone to fight overseas. Rosie the Riveter isn't just a poster, she's here sweat, streaked and determined, welding Liberty together plate by plate. The results are staggering. Where traditional shipyards take 230 days to complete a single vessel, Kaiser's team finishes one in less than 2 months. And with each new ship, they move faster. But Henry isn't satisfied. He challenges his crew. We built one in 50 days. Can we do it in 30? They laugh nervously, thinking he's joking. But Kaiser's eyes don't waver. He believes in momentum, in the idea that speed breeds speed. Soon, records begin to fall. The Robert E. Peary, a Liberty ship built in Kaiser's yard, is completed in just 4 days, 15 hours, and 29 minutes from laying the keel to launching into the water. The world can hardly believe it. Newspapers call it a shipbuilding miracle. German intelligence dismisses it as propaganda until their U-boats start sinking faster than they can count. For every freighter the Germans destroy, Kaiser launches 2 more. The Atlantic, once a graveyard for Allied shipping, begins to fill with convoys so dense they seem endless. Tanks, food and ammunition stream to Britain, North Africa, and beyond. Churchill himself will later say that the Liberty ships, crude, boxy, and unsightly, were the ships that won the war. But for Henry Kaiser, this is about more than victory. It's about proving a philosophy, that civilians can be warriors too, not with rifles, but with wrenches and welders. He walks through the shipyard one night, pausing beside a group of welders taking a short break. Their faces glow orange in the light of their torches. One woman, her gloves blackened, smiles and says, "Mr. Kaiser, we're not building ships anymore. We're building freedom." Kaiser nods. That's exactly right. He looks out at the rows of Liberty ships lined up along the pier, their hulls glinting in the floodlights. Each one represents not just steel and labor, but time, precious days saved, lives preserved, and a future secured. But behind the roaring success, there's pressure. The war is escalating. The Pacific demands more ships, more men, more supplies. The Germans are refining their tactics. And Henry Kaiser's experiment, his miracle of speed, is about to be tested to its absolute limit. January 1943, the North Atlantic near Iceland. Snow whips across the deck of the SS Jeremiah O'Brien, a Liberty ship fresh from Henry Kaiser's shipyards. Waves crash against its grey steel hull, towering like walls of black water. The ship groans, creaks, and presses on part of a convoy of over 40 vessels bound for Britain. In the freezing wind, the crew keeps watch for shadows beneath the waves. Somewhere out there, German U-boats are waiting, silent predators stalking their prey. Every man on board knows the odds. The Atlantic, they call it the graveyard. But this time, things are different. Thanks to Kaiser's production miracle, the convoys are no longer small, vulnerable targets. They stretch from horizon to horizon. For every ship that sinks, 2 more rise to replace it. The balance is shifting. Below deck, the heart of the Liberty ship beats a triple expansion steam engine that chugs relentlessly, built from prefabricated parts that fit together as precisely as a watch. Even the engineers who assembled it can hardly believe it works so flawlessly. The convoy sails through a curtain of fog. Somewhere to the east, a U-boat captain peers through his periscope. He sees not one ship, but an endless wall of them, Liberty ships, Victory ships, tankers, freighters, all streaming toward Europe. He lowers his scope, muttering under his breath, unmogly. Impossible. Back in the United States at the Richmond shipyard, Henry Kaiser receives the telegram. Convoy arrived safely, all ships intact. He exhales for the first time in days. The system is working. The miracle holds. Inside his office, the walls are covered in maps dotted with pins that mark every major Allied port. Lines stretch across oceans, connecting the shipyards of America to the beaches of Normandy, to the deserts of North Africa, to the jungles of the Pacific. Each line represents a Liberty ship, and each ship a victory not yet won. But Kaiser isn't finished innovating. He wants to build faster, cheaper, and smarter. He pushes his engineers to redesign the welding process, replacing thousands of rivets with continuous welds, stronger, quicker, lighter. It's a revolution inside a revolution. At one meeting, a Navy officer warns him, "You're cutting corners. One bad weld could cost hundreds of lives." Kaiser slams a hand on the table. No corners, just a new way forward. His confidence isn't arrogance, it's urgency. The war doesn't wait for perfection. Every ship means another lifeline across the Atlantic, another chance for Allied troops to push forward. Soon, Kaiser's empire of innovation expands. He builds shipyards up and down the West Coast in Oregon, Washington, California. Entire towns spring up overnight, filled with workers and their families. Kaiser builds homes, schools, even hospitals for them. And those hospitals clean, efficient, and worker-friendly inspire another idea: affordable health care for every employee. That idea will one day evolve into Kaiser Permanente, one of America's largest health systems. But for now, Henry's eyes stay on the ocean. The Liberty Fleet is his army, his weapon, his answer to tyranny. In the coming months, his ships will carry Sherman tanks for Patton, food for starving civilians, fuel for Spitfires and Mustangs. They will bridge continents. And when the Allies finally storm the beaches of Normandy in 1944, the supplies that make that invasion possible, the guns, the trucks, the rations, will have arrived on the decks of Kaiser's Liberty ships. Henry Kaiser didn't fire a single bullet in World War II, but his idea, his simple, civilian dream, built the ships that carried victory itself. May 1945, San Francisco Bay, California. The war is ending. The air smells of salt and celebration. A row of Liberty ships glides silently through the fog, their bows cutting across a calm Pacific that once burned with war. Each one bears the marks of long voyages, chipped paint, rust streaks, dents from near misses, but they are alive. They came home. Henry Kaiser stands at the dock, coat flapping in the sea breeze. He's older now, grey at the temples, but his eyes still hold that same unstoppable fire. The news crackles over the radio nearby. Germany has surrendered. The war in Europe is over. The dock workers cheer. Whistles echo across the bay. In the distance, Liberty ships sound their horns, a deep, rolling chorus of victory. Kaiser doesn't join the celebration right away. He looks across the harbor at the cranes, the welding sheds, the quieted yards that once blazed with sparks 24 hours a day. He remembers the first days when everyone said it couldn't be done. He remembers the women who took their husbands' places, the men who worked until their hands bled, the foremen who refused to rest until another ship slid into the sea. More than 700 Liberty ships were built in those years, more than any single type of ship in human history. Every one of them carried the same simple plaque on its bridge, built by the hands of free men and women in the service of liberty. For Kaiser, that's what it was always about: not ships, not speed, not even victory, but freedom through work, the belief that ordinary people, united by purpose, could outbuild fear itself. A journalist approaches him on the dock. "Mr. Kaiser," he asks, "what made you think you could do it? What made you believe you could build a ship in 4 days?" Kaiser smiles faintly, watching a Liberty ship disappear into the morning haze. "Because no one told me it was impossible." He turns to leave, his footsteps echoing on the wooden planks. Behind him, the shipyard stretches silent and empty, but the legacy it created will never fade. His methods will shape every major construction project of the next century, from highways to hospitals to spacecraft. And decades later, when historians write of World War II, they'll say the same thing, that while soldiers fought on the front lines, Henry Kaiser built the bridge that carried them there. Because in the darkest hour of the modern world, when tyranny seemed unstoppable and the oceans themselves turned red, it wasn't just generals or presidents who saved freedom. It was welders, riveters, engineers, mechanics, farmers, mothers, fathers, and one man, a civilian with a dream, who dared to ask, "What if we could build ships like cars?" His question built an army of steel. His idea built a fleet, and his belief helped build a world worth saving.